do? And he said, I don't know. I don't want to plan anything. I said, okay. So I was asking yesterday, what do you want to do? He said, I don't know, just ask me a bunch of questions. Okay. So we're going to wing it. How's that?
Only time for Q&A.
Yeah. So we're going to talk, I'm going to kind of focus a couple of things. This is the official title of this, Overcoming Adversity, the Life and Travels of Justin Skeesuck. We're just going to focus on the life and travels of Justin. We'll forget about the adversity. The thing I want us to do is to think about what's really important, and that's what I want to really pull together. So I'm going to kind of tell Justin for a moment just to kind of forget about you a minute and pretend like we're back in your backyard, sipping iced tea, kind of rapping again. So I'm gonna push a little deep, and I know Justin well enough. He doesn't want to talk about it alone. If he does, I won't be able to shut him up. So that'll be clear. But
We'll stay on target.
yeah, we'll stay on target. I think the thing that I've enjoyed most about my relationship with Justin is that we've just always been able to be very honest. So I want to start with the obvious place this morning. So tell me about this disease called Loma. What put you in this chair?
Yeah. So for those of you who aren't familiar with my background, so before my time here at Point Loma, I was here's my mom and dad. Hi, Mom and Dad. Come on in. So I was involved in an automobile accident, and just shy of my 16th birthday. And I didn't know at the time, but that car accident triggered progressive neuromuscular disease in my body, and it's called multifocal acquired motor axonopathy. So I call it MAMA for short. And to give everybody in this room perspective, it's very similar to ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease. And if you're not familiar with how that disease works, it's basically my autoimmune system attacks my nervous system, and then my nervous system shuts down. So I can feel everything from head to toe. It's just the motor nerves, the nerves in your muscular system that kind of make your muscles work. They just stop working. So there's no cure for it. It does get worse over time, and it's not necessarily a good diagnosis because it means I'm gonna have a very, very long road ahead of me. It's very, very, very rare. There's only a small handful of people in the United States that have the disease. I had heard probably 5 to maybe 10 people in the whole country. So it's very rare, and there's very, very little, if any, research being done on it, just because there's not that many people living with it. So I guess my hopes are that if they do find some sort of cure for ALS, that possibly could work for me. I guess I'll cross that bridge when we get there. And they're spending millions, if not billions, of dollars trying to figure out a cure for that one. So we'll see. Time will tell. In the meantime, I've had to live life in a power wheelchair, and I've evolved over time. So when I was here, I have some friends that know me here for a while. They knew me when I was walking around. I had orthotic braces on my feet, and then I ended up using a cane, and then I ended up using a manual wheelchair for a while. And then, I don't know how old, it's probably like 10 years ago, maybe a little longer, 12 years ago, I tried a special kind of treatment, and it ended up putting me in a wheelchair full time. So it didn't work. So it's made life interesting, as you can imagine.
There are children present, so I don't want to be too graphic, but one of my first visions is Justin was when we first met. This guy would wear shorts, and he had these braces on his skinny little leg.
Yeah.
And so here is a former tennis player, athlete, and that's one of the things that kind of stood out. Is out of these shorts, you see these braces and these long, thin legs. Kind of one of those pictures that you just kind of capture and you don't forget too long. Talk a little about the obvious, other obvious thing, and that is, tell us a little bit about what does it mean, what does this chair do, what does it mean to be in a chair, what's it like to travel, what family, daily, I mean, let's just get down be sitting here like this in a chair?
Well,
and a little bit about what this chair will do. I mean, it launches people and
yeah, catapults me forward. So technically, this isn't even my wheelchair. I was flying from Seattle to Denver about a week and a half ago. The airline dropped my wheelchair off the conveyor belt, completely destroyed my wheelchair. That's a $50,000 wheelchair. So this is a loaner chair until I get a new one. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But you know what? Every day, you just over time, I've learned how to navigate living life in a wheelchair as my disease has progressed through my life. I've had to adjust many, many times, over and over and over again. And my wife, Kirsten, did she just step out? Okay. So Kirsten is here, and she's my not only my spouse, but also my primary caregiver. So we are a very well-oiled machine, and it involves a very specific process of getting my clothes on every day, in and out of bed, that whole thing. It takes me, it's actually pretty efficient. We're pretty efficient. I can get fully dressed in about 15 to 20 minutes. Some people it can take a little longer, but we've worked out a system on how to do that. And she feeds me and helps me with lunch and helps me go to the bathroom and showering and all the fun stuff there. I've had other people step into that role as well. My best friend Patrick has stepped into that role. My brothers helped out. My mom and dad who are in this room have stepped into that role. And so it's a very humbling position to be in, to have somebody help you in those very private moments. But I've learned a lot about human connection and what we're capable of doing for one another. And so, yeah.
How many people have seen the movie? Great. If you haven't seen it, you need to see it. There's a scene in there where he talks about the reality of friendship, the humbleness with Patrick.
Yeah.
One of the most moving parts of the movie. That's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So, it's I guess after a while, when you kind of live in my life, you just kind of get used to it. Just like kind of everybody else, you just kind of get your daily routine and you keep moving forward. As we have good days, we have bad days, and there's days where I just maybe it was a week and a half ago, kind of before I left to go to my last trip. I was like, I just wish I could just get up and stretch, just stretch out. I sit back down, like I don't mind, but it's just I just wish, I wish I could just get up, stretch, because I don't. As humans, we're not really meant to be sitting every day, and so you're meant to be walking, you're meant to be out, meant to be active, and so there's times I go through cycles where I get sick of it, just want to just get up, just run around the block if I could, and then I could get back in it and do it again. But there's days where I get frustrated and tired of it all. But then Kirsten and I kind of laugh about it or kind of work through it and just go, okay, well that's not really the reality of where I live. I can't just take it away magically. I just have to move forward.
All of us have flown an airplane probably in this room. So just talk to us about what's it like to fly on an airplane. What's it take to get ready, and the logistics of what you have to think. I mean, you have a well-oiled machine and a routine. I know that. What? Just to give them a picture. Here's something we all can identify with.
Yeah.
We get our ticket, we walk in, we get plugged in, we walk on the airplane, we sit down, and everything is wonderful. Talk a little bit about how it's maybe a little different for you.
Yeah, so it's a longer process for me. I am first on the plane, last off the plane. So, it's always fun when I land, and I've been on a plane for the last 4.5 hours, and the person in the back decided to now get up and get their bags and get ready. And I'm like, I'd like to get off the plane, and I can't deboard until everyone's off. So, but there's, I'll try to kind of condense this because it's quite a process, but The first step is education. I educate the gate people, the person at the gate, the ramp crew, because these wheelchairs, the devices that people use are very expensive, and they don't necessarily take care of them as well as they should, because they just don't, they're either in a hurry or they don't know. So my wheelchair dropping off the conveyor belt a week and a half ago, I mean, that's an anomaly. That doesn't necessarily happen often. It's the first time, and I travel a lot, so it's the first time it's that bad. But it is typical that, you know, they'll pull parts off my wheelchair. They're trying to load it or whatever. So I have a whole process of how to prep. Even this chair, I protect the joystick because that's the main controlling device and keeps me moving. And they have to fit it on the plane. So I go down to the jet bridge, just right where you get on the plane. I transfer into an aisle chair. It's a small, rigid back chair. You might see them next time you fly. They're kind of off to the side. They're really tiny.
And they're so wide.
Yeah, they're about 10 inches wide. I feel like a foot wide maybe. So, and they're very uncomfortable to sit on. So, but I transfer into that, and then they strap me into that. Like, I feel like a baby harness, because it's like 18,000 straps, and then bring me onto the plane aircraft and, you know, unstrap me, put me in the chair, and that's reverse process on the way out. So that's why I have to go down first, because it just takes a while for me to get on, and then I have to have somebody sit next to me the whole time, so feeding on the plane and all that. And I have to avoid going to the bathroom on a plane at all costs. I've had to pee on a plane before. I just sit in my seat and get a blanket or a jacket or whatever, and it looks really odd, but you know, we make it work.
You do what you got to do.
If that's only an emergency. So I have to plan bathroom schedule. You know, so Kirsten, so raise your hand back there so everyone can see my beautiful wife. So she went to the nursing program here, and she ended up working in spinal cord injury rehab at the VA system for 12, 13 years. So when she worked there, she learned how to work with paralyzed individuals to get on a bathroom regimen. You can actually train your body to go in a very predictable way. It takes a little bit of time, but once you do that, you know, you can plan a little easier. So it's basic stuff. Don't eat a bunch of greasy food before you go out on a plane. You know, don't load up on a bunch of caffeine because it's a laxative. You know, those kind of things. So you just have to think ahead a little bit more. Yes?
That made me think of two questions. One, when you went to Italy, holy cow, like how did that work? And two,
Yeah.
Kirsten, did you, like, when you went into nursing, was that just like random that you went into that? That is such a cool God thing. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I've always wondered how you got yourself into that niche.
Yeah, and I wasn't planning on, I was gonna work labor and delivery or NICU.
Wow.
I changed my mind, not changed my mind, but it was 5 years night shift, and I said, no way. Just got married, I'm gonna go work, the VA offered 5 weeks vacation and more pay and day shift, and I said, I'll take it. Ended up on the spinal cord injury rehab floor, which was not on purpose. People assume that that's, I did that. And he was still walking at the time. So I did that, just loved it. And turns out it was on purpose.
So, you know, with your training, she learned how to, you know, like when you're in bed, like how to get clothes on and those kind of things. It's just a lot of nuances that you have to learn how to do that. Her back is taking the toll of all those years in the hospital. But you know, to answer your question about long haul flights, well, for again avoiding greasy foods and those kind of things. But for peeing, you know, I got an 8 or 9 hour flight, sometimes a 12-hour flight. I have to self dehydrate, so I have to just take just enough liquids to keep my body functioning. But I just can't be drinking like tons and tons and tons of water, though you're supposed to, because flying really sucks the moisture out of you. So what I do is I self-dehydrate. If I have to pee, I'll do it, but I just start hydrating as soon as I get off the plane as much
for a moment. Take us back to when you guys first met. Where did this all start? I remember. Talk about that relationship.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I'll try to be brief here, but so I went to school here at 93, 97, and Kirsten I graduated a couple weeks later. So I was living here in Point Loma off of Voltaire, down some apartments down there with some roommates, and we ran out of toilet paper, and needed some toilet paper for the house, so went to Stump's Market, or is it still called Stump's? Yeah, Stump, yeah. So went to Stump's, and in that shopping market, there was a liquor store there. It was just called Liquor. That's it. And Kirsten, I was stopping to get some snacks, and on the way back, and then Kirsten was in there she was doing laundry at Loma Laundryland, which is right around the corner there. And she was you're getting a Snickers for your dad, right? And I had just seen her a week prior at First Church here on campus. And it was when it was in Brown Chapel, that's when they had it back then. And then she thinks it's a pickup line, but I really did, say, don't you go to First Church or First Church, and she's like, yeah, and she had just moved down from Boise, Idaho, which is, I'm from that, I live in that area. She went to BSU, she was engaged to this guy that, thank God she broke it off. And she's like, I'm done with guys, and comes back here and she meets me. And when we met, I didn't ask you out. I just said, I'll see you later, whatever. And then I saw you on Sunday at church, and then just a couple days later, I was designing a logo for a taco shop that used to be, there's a library there now, across from Stump's. I think it's a library. There used to be a taco shop there, and before it was leveled and all that. And I was designing a logo for the taco shop, and the owner was late. So I'm just kind of waiting there, and then all good, she comes running by. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, 3 times in less than a week? I think God's kind of knocking on my door a little bit. So she was doing laundry again, so I come over there, and I'm like, hey, you want to go hang out?
The old laundry line.
I live now.
I do laundry all the time. Yeah. But that's how we met, and we've been best friends ever since. So next year will be 20 years.
Wow.
Together.
Yeah.
Let me pick up on a line there. I'm going to take about 5-10 more minutes, then we'll just open it up and let you guys ask whatever you want. But graphic design. One of the things that you said yesterday that really caught my attention was about your creative sense that you have about you. You just have a lens in which you look creatively at so much. Talk to us a little bit about your graphic design, what's in your brain, and your joy and your passion, because I know it is a passion for you. And then talk about the reality of your hands and how that affects you and what you do now.
Yeah.
Because you still are very creative.
Yeah. When I came to Point Loma, I was undeclared. I didn't know what I would be. I've always loved art and all of that, and I lived with my cousin my first 2 years, my cousin Wade, and he was my freshman year. I remember it very clearly. We're kind of chatting, and he goes, "Hey, have you thought about, maybe being a graphic designer?" So I got to give Wade credit for that. My uncle here, right there. So their son. And he's like, have you thought about being a graphic designer? And I was like, well, what's that? And he's like, well, you design logos and brochures for companies. And I thought, that sounds kind of cool. And I had already, in high school, I had worked on the annual, and I designed T-shirts and banners and stuff for basketball games and football games, whatever kind of kept me creative with a friend of mine. And so I said, I think I could do that, I think my mom and dad could get behind something that could actually pay the bills, not just be some random artist hoping that I would make it someday painting, I don't know, something random. But yeah, put out the cut, please donate. But something about it really struck a forward with me because I look back at my younger years. You know, as a kid in church, you know, you're supposed to be listening, but I would never listen. I would always draw pictures, and my brother would draw certain things, and I would always draw type or shapes or things. I didn't know why. I just always did, like letter forms and those kind of things, and which is obviously a natural fit to graphic design and, you know, typography and that kind of stuff. And I just really, really loved it. I graduated here with an art emphasis graphic design, and even before I left, I was doing freelance work for San Diego Police Department, San Diego Ballet, all these, you know, really cool things, and ended up having a very successful career with it here in San Diego County. And this is a testament, to the employers I've had. My old boss was here yesterday, came to Change Chapel yesterday. His name's Ron Mariello. The best boss I've ever had in my entire life. Just loved, supported me, gave me encouragement when I needed it, helped me craft, get better at my craft, and that was kind of over the years. And so, kind of skipping ahead, where I had to let a lot of that go. I've had to let a lot of things go in my life.
I remember when we were talking one afternoon at your place. That was I could see it in your eyes. The hardest thing is the hands begin to go. It's like, it wasn't panic, but it was like,
What do you do?
what do you do?
Yeah.
This is what God gave you, and then all of a sudden it doesn't seem to be there anymore.
Yeah. So I still, to this day, feel like I was meant to be a graphic designer, I just see life that way. But as I've lost the use of my hands, not be able to do it professionally anymore. So I'm still able to do design work. I'm a lot slower, but I just usually do it for our own stuff. So Patrick and I, my business partner in Nazarene, so, you know, all of our marketing materials I do. But I've had to use assistive technology to keep me moving. So I use voice command, voice control, I use a pen and tablet, and I use mathematics, kind of placing stuff, X, Y, what?
Use your nose.
I use my nose, yeah. I use my nose sometimes. Which is not ergonomically correct. Sometimes you gotta make do. But, you know, it was very, very difficult giving that part of my life up. But what I decided to do was okay, I'm not able to work in that profession anymore, working for an agency or in that capacity, but it doesn't mean that I can stop. Doesn't mean that I can stop being who I am as an individual.
Let me segue to that.
Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah.
So yesterday when Bob was interviewing you, you talked about how and why. I scratched on my notes and I looked at this morning, why not? So talk to me about the how, the why, and from my perspective, the why not I know about you. I mean, there's not a whole lot this guy will not do.
I won't go up Mount Everest, I know that. Don't ask that.
That's great.
I'm not going to do that. I do not want to die. So.
Talk a little bit about how you see why sometimes instead of how.
Yeah, so I think, you know, that mantra has evolved with me over time, because when I was younger, you know, you kind of get caught up when you have an idea for something. How can I get this done? Or you immediately go to the details. And I've met a lot of people in my life, and I've been there too, where I get so caught up in the how that I just don't even try because it's so daunting, right? So I started making a mental shift to, okay, well, what is my heart telling me I need to do? And once I started shifting to that, it hasn't steered me wrong since. It takes work. It doesn't mean you just kind of hope something happens and it just shows up at your doorstep. You know, you put in the good old WORK. You got to get the elbow grease in there, but when I started shifting to okay, how do I, why do I do what I do? What's my passion behind it? I'm more fulfilled in what I'm doing. And it makes me more open to working harder to achieve that goal. And then the details work themselves out. So the how ends up working itself out. And when you kind of get into that rhythm of life, the why not becomes a much more open door, because you realize that whatever you set your heart to, you can achieve it. You really can. And then I don't know if this is a psychology thing or not. I've heard this one time, so you can tell. But I think it's called the competence loop. Right. Yeah. The more you do something, the more confident you become. The more confident you become, the more confident you become. Right? Yeah, it's a cycle. So once you kind of enter that cycle, the more you do it, the easier it becomes, and the ideas become bigger. So that's where the why not comes in.
One last question, then we'll open up to you guys, as promised. So when we talk about the why not, I mean, this guy really is crazy. I mean, there's not a lot you don't think about trying. But the other part of that, which you've already talked a little bit about, I want you to go a little bit deeper. You mentioned, there were words you mentioned yesterday, and you have, every time I've ever talked to you, relationships are very important. So the why not in your life happens because there are people that come into your life that help you with the why not.
Right.
Talk a little bit about what relationships mean to you, not in specific ones if you want to, but how does a relationship push the why not even farther for you?
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that you got to surround yourself with people that will love and support you and carry you when times are rough, but also be there when things are great. And it's not a one-way street. It's not like I try to surround myself just for my own sake. I try to surround myself with people that I love, that I know I can help. Be a shoulder for them to lean on when they need it. It's a two-way street. That's how I see it. And as Kirsten and I have lived our lives together, even before I met Kirsten, it's been very important to me, that peace. But even more so as my disease has progressed and things have become more challenging, and things will become even more challenging for me as I get older. Those relationships are gold. They're absolute gold in your life. And it's more important than money, it's more important than anything on this planet, at least that I see, is those people that are around you. And that, for me, is not just my spouse and my best friends and my family, but it's my church family. It's the community in which I live. I live in Idaho, so it's the people around me that I see at church or at the coffee shop or whatever that is. It's those relationships. And so when you have a support system like that, and you have people in your life that are like, okay, you got this, you can do it, it makes it a lot easier to pursue the things that you want to pursue.
If you want to know what that looks like, the end of the movie, when the two of them, he and Patrick, come around into the plaza, the cameraman, who's also the Loma, but the shots he had of Justin and of Patrick and then of Kirsten and Donna, I mean, for people in psychology, they don't need to have a psychology degree to understand it, but to watch that dynamic and what he captured in that film, that was one of the most phenomenal pictures of what you're talking about relationships that matter. And it's just amazing. That's part of what that why not is all about, that give and take and what happens when the people that are really there that matter. So that was really an amazing.
That was a one-shot deal. You don't reshoot that. Yeah.
So as promised, the floor is yours. What do you want to know?
What has God done in your life to keep you from being bitter? Because lost joy. And even in the movie, you can see, you know, you have your sense of humor. You're the same Justin, you know, in many ways as you were when you had full mobility. But how has he kept you from playing the martyr?
That's a very good question.
Yes, it is.
So,
Not that you can't play the martyr sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't want to like
Yeah.
this. You have to always be happy.
you know, I get asked that question in a roundabout way in different facets. And I've broken it down into kind of three main areas. The first is every day I try to wake up with a grateful attitude. So though I can dwell on I can't drive anymore and I can't do this, I can't do that, blah blah blah, it's like you can easily go down that road. And sometimes I do. Like I said, you know, early when we started talking together, I wish I could just get up and stretch and whatever. You know, there's days I have like that. But for the most part, I'm very grateful for the things that I do have. And for me, it's not necessarily material things. It's more about the people in my life and the things that I have that I feel very blessed to have. I have an amazing spouse. My kids are really great. My parents have been very, very supportive. My aunt and uncle who are in this room have been very, very supportive over the years. You know, friends in this room like you guys and Kelly, and I mean, these people in my life I've been very, very grateful to have in my life. And so I try to have an attitude of gratefulness as much as I can. The second piece is, we've already talked about it, is community. I surround myself with people that continually support me. The third piece, and I'd probably say the most important piece, is that I pray a lot. And I pray in a way that that I feel, you know, where are days I'm frustrated and I'm angry, and I can be angry at God because I think He's big enough to handle it. So, you know, I voice my frustrations. I get angry. I have time of gratefulness. I have time of just silence and just letting try to feel where God wants me to be, seeking His heart in everything that I do, or I try to as much as I can. And so when you start kind of compounding those, you become less bitter. You become less of a martyr. Believe me, I met people that have, you know, tossed in the towel and said, yeah, it sucks, and I'm just going to curl up in a ball and wither away. And I said, why? Why do you do that? There's no need to. You know, is life going to be difficult? Yeah. You know, do we all have our challenges? Yes, we do. And it's, you know, you can live in a life of bitterness, but that's no fun. You know, I don't be that person. So, you know, I just try to get up every day and go, all right, God, what can you do with me today? And let's do the best that we can. I mean, it's little things that I'm grateful for. Like today we had coffee. Kirsten and I had coffee down in OB. It's like, you know, just two of us hanging out, having coffee. Sun's out. I'm happy.
Yeah.
That's all I need.
Is there a question over
Yeah.
here? Yeah.
Could you share a little bit about your most recent trip on the Camino?
Yeah. So I just got back from Spain about a month and a half ago. So Patrick and I. So Patrick, if you don't know who he is, he's my best friend, and he's the one who pushed me 500 miles on the Camino, our first round. And we just got back, and we just took 10 people in wheelchairs, a lady who was blind, and 37 helpers from around the globe on the last 100 kilometers. So it's about 70 plus miles. My son Jaden, he's in the very, very back right there. You raise your hand, bud. There he is. Hey. He's 16. He came with us.
Noah, we don't want to.
And Noah. Yeah. Hey, Noah. Yeah. But specifically,
Where's Lauren?
Where's she at? She's right here somewhere. She's out shopping. But Jaden came with us this first time. and help push me and help push others. And it was absolutely amazing because we had, there were some groups in Spain and France that will take like smaller groups, but this is the first time we've ever, a group of this size, almost 50 people, actually beyond 50 people because we had 6 guides with us as well. So there was, it was amazing. The first night we're together, nobody knew each other. We're in this big room, kind of like this, having dinner. Nobody, everyone's kind of meet each other, like, hey, I'm so-and-so from, Canada or from Australia or New Zealand or whatever. And you skip ahead to the end of the week, and everyone's loving on one another, and it was amazing to be there. So it was a completely different experience for Patrick and I because we got to see the Camino through their eyes this time, and it's been so successful this first round that we actually have 2 more groups we're doing next June. So they're already sold out with 50 of each, and we just announced last week that we're taking veterans with disabilities next fall. So we're working on trying to fill that group, and it's a whole nother piece I never thought I would be doing. I was about halfway into the journey in like late September, and I'm sitting at a cafe, and I'm like, this is my job. I get to hang out with people and have a good time. It's really cool. So it went over very, very well. It was really fun.
Everybody under the age of 15, raise your hands. What questions do you have? Because you won't ask them unless I ask you. It's your time. You have any questions? Ask him anything you want.
It's probably gonna sound kind of dumb, but like, does the chair ever make you feel like not a normal person?
That is not a dumb question. That's a very good question. Yeah, it does. There are times where I'll be at a counter, I'll be with somebody, whether my family or I'll be traveling or something, and the person behind the counter will say, so what does he need? And I always stop and say, I'm right here, you can ask me. So yeah, I'm right here, maybe a little lower. I've learned that it's there's a lot of education that needs to happen with people, especially in the if you don't live in the world that I live in, it's foreign, so it's okay. I understand that people don't quite know how to engage in conversation with me, or when people come up to me all the time and reach their hand out to shake my hand, well, I can't shake their hand, so I would just guide them and say, just pat me on the shoulder. I'll take a hug if you want to give me a hug or whatever. I just try to kind of educate and keep things moving along, but yeah, I do get that from time to time of people staring at me. It's okay when kids come up and ask me, hey, why are you in that wheelchair? Or what is that thing? I get that a lot from kids, like especially little kids, like 3, 4 years old. They're very curious, so which is fine. I don't mind. I give them rides on my wheelchair.
We were talking. This is something you kids can understand. We were talking yesterday about vans buying for our grandkids and our kids. You guys go through vans about every month. Yours last a little longer.
Yeah. So I have a specialized van. It has a ramp that comes out. It looks like a transformer in some ways, but unfortunately, they're very expensive. Oh, the shoes? My Vans. Oh, these kind of Vans. Oh, sorry.
For the kids wear them out. You wear them out.
You're talking about Vans. I was like, what? Sorry,
His comment was, I don't get a lot of wear on these shoes.
Yeah.
Mine last a little longer.
Yeah, they do. So, sorry.
No.
My coffee hasn't kicked in yet. So yeah, I have a pair of black and white check slip-on Vans I've had for 25 years.
You guys go through them in a month.
Yeah.
Any other quick questions from any of you young kids?
Yeah, we got like 5 minutes.
I'm allowed to buy white ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, older kids.
I did a little math on your age. I think you're mid-40s.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm a car accident survivor that occurred to me at about the same time, so with a medevac and brain injury, so sending love to you on that. And also, I did read about you, I think it was in Viewpoint, and it was quite a while ago, so if you could refresh my memory and some others, perhaps. The name of your book is I'll Push You, right?
Yes. I'll push
Is
you.
the movie the same name?
Yes, same title.
Great. Do you have a website at all?
Yes, allpushyou.com.
All right.
Mention your children's book
So we have,
and imprint.
so we have some other things that we've done as well. So we have, we just released our third book. It's called Imprints. It just came out in September, early
You gotta
September.
get it.
Um,
It's got quotes in it. All I do is go to my class and I just quote his book. Every page practically has a little blocked out quote that has from the text.
Yeah.
That's my lesson for the day.
Yeah. So we have, so I'll Push You is our first book. It's Patrick and I write these books together. So it's our memoir. So once you read it, you'll know a whole lot about me. And then we have our children's book called The Push. And then we have, where actually Patrick wrote that book and I co-illustrated that book.
Wow.
So I had a guy, it's a really great story about the artwork. Patrick wrote this beautiful children's story. It's about our friendship, because we've known each other for a very, very long time. And it's loosely, I mean, it's based on our friendship, but it's not.
We were born on the same day.
36 hours apart, so
Yeah.
a little bit older, but very close. And it's about two kids, John and Marcus, and how they grew up together, and how they can push each other. And I love the message about the book because it doesn't portray a person with a disability as less than. It's everyone has something to contribute, no matter who you are. That's what I love about the message. And so when Patrick wrote this book, he read it to me, and I was like, we got to do something with this. And we were going to self-release it, self-publish it, and our publisher ended up picking it up after a series of events. But was released, and Patrick said, okay, when it comes to the artwork, I want you to do the artwork. And I'm like, how am I going to do that? Because I can't draw. So he said, I want you to do it. I want to do it in your style that you used to do when I was here at Point Loma. I did a very small series of watercolor and pen and ink. There's like five pieces that I did. And he's like, and that was the requirement. I said, okay, we got to figure that out. So we ended up interviewing over 80 illustrators to mimic my style, that I could do the pen part, the boys doing whatever they're doing in the environment. And I said, well, I can do the watercolor. So once we found this kid, he was out of a 19-year-old kid out of Colorado Springs. His name's Matt, and he nailed it. Just got it. He worked with a publisher. Young kid, right out of college or in college, and was trying to be an illustrator and ended up illustrating his first published book. So it's really cool. Great opportunity for him. And then I was tasked with doing the watercolor, so I had to figure that out. So I did it digitally. I had all the artwork scanned in, and then I just methodically went through every single illustration and used, to the best of my ability, layered stuff, using digital brushes, and it took me about a month and a half to figure out how to do it, and then once I was able to do it, it was like, there's like 100 illustrations, well, not that many, so like 70, something like that. So I had to do them, and then do them quickly, because I was under the gun with the publisher, so I put in a good couple 80-hour weeks to get it done. But, very proud of that book. So very proud of it, and the work that went into it. And then Imprints just came out, and that's our third book. So we'll see if we do another one. I don't know.
These books will push you. They're not just books. They're not just a story. Right? They're the gut life of Patrick and Justin and what he's been through. It's amazing. They're great Christmas gifts.
What's the best availability? Did the campus bookstore have them?
they just started a foundation. So if you want to be a foundation member, go on the website. They'll help you out.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So we got a lot of things we're working on. So books, travel, speak. We doing the Camino groups. We also have some digital courses that we've created. So we have small group curriculums. We have we're doing now leadership training and moving into that space, which has been really, really cool to see that. So it's just been really amazing to see God working through this. We call ourselves two knuckleheads. We are complete idiots in many ways, but how it's kind of taken this idea and has grown over time. It's taken work, but again, follow why we do it, not how we do it.
We got 50 more minutes. So yeah.
What's one or two of the biggest life lessons that God has shown you in your life, and who is God in your life through everything?
Yeah. I'd say some of the biggest lessons I've learned is when God is quiet. You're going to have those moments in your life where God's going to work through you. It's going to be very clear and very evident. And doors are going to open, things are going to be moving. But there's going to be times where it won't. And it's being patient through that process. I've learned how to be very patient. And it's not fun because I do like to get stuff done. So like last year was a big year of me being very patient in where we're going, what I'm doing. So again, just continue to pray every day. Say, God, what do you want? Show me the way. So I've learned patience. I've learned, so how I see God, what was the second part of your question?
Yeah, like who is God in your life?
Who is God in my life?
Through everything that
Yeah.
you've been through.
You know, when I was younger, I thought that, I kind of had this perception that God was this, this big thing that you piss it off and it's, you're in trouble, it's not going to go well, kind of Old Testament thinking, I guess. But Jesus changed that. When Christ came and died for us, when I was in college, the shift started happening for me, where I started maturing a little bit more. And I always feel like I'm going to never arrive. I'm going to always continue to grow and push myself to be better in all that I do. But specifically in my faith, I've learned that how I see God is it's love and the potential for us to be better in this world with one another. And how quickly the Holy Spirit can move through you if you allow it. And it's a hard road because you have to keep continuing to let things go in your life and not hold on to things so tightly. And I've kind of learned through my life that the more I let go, the more God shines in it. It's kind of weird. It's contradictory. At least that's just my experience and my way I see it.
JJ, you have another question?
Yeah. I think sometimes, like, when someone sees you, they can see that you have limitations and you're handicapped, but I think what God does in your heart through that actually makes you less handicapped than if you would have been completely mobile. What ways do you think you would have been handicapped, like spiritually, emotionally, relationally, had this not happened to you?
Yeah, I'd probably say that I don't think I would have nearly as grown as much, for sure. I think I probably would have just been going through the flow, just going with it, not really pushing myself. And life that I've had to live and the ups and downs with it, I wouldn't trade it for anything, because it's allowed me to experience life in a whole new way. And I almost would even loathe the idea of just being and going through the motions of the normal everyday life. You know what I mean? Like, would I love to get up and run and walk again and draw and paint and wrap my arms around my children and life? Of course I would. But it's like, if I was to just be the average Joe, just doing whatever, I'd probably be a graphic designer still, professionally, just kind of maybe stagnant in my Christian faith. I probably could say that, honestly. So that's why I wouldn't want to trade it, because it's allowed me to see God in a whole new light, and there's a trade-off to it, but for me it's worth it. So, okay, last question. Can we wrap it up? Yes.
So as an artist, would you say that even though you have limitations, like, have you grown in any other ways, even though you're not able to use your hands? Like, has that impacted your art positively at all?
I would say so, yes. I mean, it's my creativity has never wavered, so it's always there. It forces me to do things differently, which in a way is a good thing. So it allows me to, when I do decide to do artwork or projects along that creative side, sometimes I just do for fun, just to get it out of my system. For me, it's a wonderful release to just be creative for creative's sake. But it definitely has pushed me to see life through that lens differently. Have you seen the movie? So if you ever watched the movie, there's a part where we traveled for like 30-something hours to get to France, and we get to the hotel, and I can't fit my wheelchair in the elevator. The elevator's like 3 feet by 3 feet. It's tiny. I can't. It's like I am like beat. I'm so tired. No sleep on 30+ hours, and it's like 1 in the morning in this hotel. Patrick's like, and my hotel room, of course, is on the top floor in the very back of the hotel. The only room left. And I check in, and I remember the little French lady behind the counter. She's just looking at me like, oh, and the camera crew's with us. They're not allowed to help. They can't carry me up 4 flights of stairs. So Patrick scratches his head trying to figure out what to do, and he sets me on this bench. And I'm exhausted. I barely have any energy left. And I'm looking at the lady behind the counter, and she's sitting in an office chair with wheels on it. I'm like, that'll fit in the elevator. Pat's strong enough to pick me up. I said, all right, can I borrow your office chair? And she's like, yeah, sure. So Pat picks me up, puts me in the office chair, gets me in the elevator. I mean, he's like on my lap because it's so tiny in there, and he's a big dude, so he's like, get to the top floor. He drags me down the hallway, literally drags me down the hallway in the office chair. Goes all the way down the hall. We get to our room, and there's a step in the room. And the bed is about 15 feet away. I'm like, so we're sitting there, and we about die laughing. Because we're like losing at this point, right? There's a point to the story. So I'm looking in the room, and Pat's like, okay, how am I going to get, he can't carry me that far. It's a long ways. I'm 200 pounds. So I'm like, how are we going to get there? So he's looking at me. I'm like, there's another chair. Doesn't have wheels on it, but it's a chair. So he drags it over, picks me up, puts me in that chair, drags me to the bed, picks me up, puts me in bed. That was like our 18th transfer for that day, I think. And I'm like, all right, good night. And I was just like, before we even started. But the point is that just because I'm not able to design it's still, you still see, you have to be creative. You got to think through those situations. As tired as I am, just looking at it from an outside angle, how can I get there? And we had to do that, I don't know how many times. I mean, even that same hotel, we were there for 2 days, and I couldn't get from the door, from the bathroom to the toilet. It was like down around the corner. So Pat's like, how am I gonna get you there? I'm like, well, get an office chair. You know, and we just made it work. But we had many of those moments where we had to be creative and think through those. And so I think the bigger point is however you feel God has made you, use it. Even if you're not doing what you set out to do. And life will change. There'll be obstacles be thrown in your way. And you need people to carry you through those points. So,
Last question. I'm going to pretend they're not here, but I'm going to include them, right? If we were sitting here together and say, what's hard for you right now? What are you facing? How can I love you? So I'm going to change it to how can we love you? What's the way that we could love you right now?
I'd say the biggest piece is just continued strength to keep moving forward. I'm in a very heavy travel season right now. I've been traveling a lot. My kids have been sacrificing time away from me. My wife has been sacrificing time away from me. And it can get a little daunting with just being gone on the road. I'm meeting a lot of people, so I have to be what we say on a lot. I have to be on my A game a lot. So it just gets really tiring. And then just to continue to see God's heart in what we're doing. Because it's not just me. I mean, I have people around me supporting me, and Patrick as well. So we spend a lot of time together, and it puts a lot of pressure on our friendship. So we are always trying to seek just being friends in the midst of all the craziness, just to be together and have fun, not lose that. It's tough because families dependent upon you, people dependent upon you, traveling a lot. So it's just that continued strength to keep moving forward, so not lose sight of what we're doing.
So we're going to have a community prayer, but we're not going to say anything. So I'm going to just say our Father, and then I'm going to stop, and everybody in the room just pray for Justin and Kirsten and the family and Patrick and Don. Can we do that? And then I'll say amen. Our Father. Amen.
And thanks everybody for coming. Appreciate it. Yay, clap, clap, clap. Enjoy the rest of your day.